Before we get into today's episode, we want to mention something for any of you who've ever been frustrated that your students' answers are often so unreasonable.
Y'all, we have a mini workshop called Teaching Place Value. It's about 2 hours, totally self-paced, and digs into the stuff most curricula completely skip over. Not just what place value is, but how to help students actually make sense of numbers in a way that changes how they do math.
You can even try the first lesson completely free, no credit card, and no commitment.
Nice, huh? Head over to mathisfigureoutable.com/mini, M-I-N-I, mathisfigureoutable.com/mini to check it out. Now, on to the show. Hey, fellow mathers. Oh my gosh, I feel like I just totally screamed hey. Hey,
Hi.
hey, 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 hey.
Hey.
Okay, that sounds super weird now. How do I? Hey, fellow mathers. Is that normal? Does that sound normal? I can't even. What's normal? You say it. Can you say that part?
Hey, fellow mathers.
Welcome to the podcast where math is figure-outable. I'm Pam Harris, who can't say hey without feeling really strange. A former mimicker turned mather. Sorry.
And I'm Kim, a reasoner who now knows how to share her thinking with others. At Math is Figureoutable, we are on a mission to improve math teaching.
Because we know that algorithms are super cool human achievements. But we're asking you to consider that they're terrible teaching tools because mimicking step-by-step procedures actually traps students into using less sophisticated reasoning, meaning they never develop the more sophisticated reasoning than the problems are intended to develop.
In this podcast, we help you teach mathing, building relationships with your students, and grappling with mathematical relationships.
We invite you to join us to make math more figure-outable.
Oh, what is happening today?
Hey!
Oh
Gosh.
my God.
Do you ever say something and all of a sudden it just doesn't feel right? You're like, that just, wow, okay.
Sometimes, but
Yeah.
harder words than hey.
Hey!
Oh my God, I'm crying.
Okay, but I'm just going to note that in our notes, you have the word hey written there.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey.
How's it
hey.
going?
It's fantastic.
Shoot.
It is fantastic. Hey, we're recording on a Friday. That's good. I don't know. Should we tell people we record not on the day it drops? Surely they know that.
Yeah.
Do they know?
Yeah. Surely.
Yeah, surely.
Okay, we need to move on.
or Kimberly. Shirley or Kimberly. One of the two. All right, y'all.
All right, last week.
Sorry. Go. You
So last week we talked about seeking for clever.
Yeah.
And that was a really interesting conversation. It was a good conversation because it's an interesting idea that your first inclination isn't always the best you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And you had this happen recently.
Yeah, and this idea of what does it mean that we kind of have this cultural thing happening where a lot of teachers are asking for more than one way and demanding it and grading it, and so there's another part of this that kind of comes up for that we want to talk about. So I was recently several places, so no one's going to know who, where, or what this was, and I'm not going to be negative here, but I think it's good that we just keep general. I actually had a really good time, fantastic time. It was a great group of educators, wonderful. We did some really cool work that day. I got to do some learning that day. Somebody was, a different presenter was presenting. I was part of the learning, and they asked us to kind of consider a different way of looking at solving a specific kind of problems than maybe we were traditionally taught. And I was a little skeptical of what we were doing, but not as... I was skeptical that this was something that I was going to turn around and promote that we teach, but I was more than willing to dive in and just sort of start playing with the relationships, see how it works, kind of see if I could get good at using the relationships in the way they were suggesting. And we did some kind of, preliminary kind of problems that I think it made a little bit more sense. And then we said, hey, would it apply here? And I think we got some variables involved. And one of the participants, very great person, raises their hand and says, "But I see what you're doing, but can't I just solve it this way?" And to that, the presenter said, kind of took a breath, and then you can, what if you were presenting, and you're trying to get people to consider something and think about something, and somebody's like, "Yeah, but can't I just do it whatever way?" And I don't even know that we knew what way she did, but she got an answer, and she's like, "Can I just do it this way?" And the presenter said, "Yeah, but that's not what we're doing right now." That's not a horrible thing to say. It's not like a, um, but why did you go, hmm? Kim, when I say that, what message does it send? Subtly, I think subtly,
Well,
when
who's speaking? Because
ah,
there's a message for both people, I think.
let's start with when the presenter hears, "Can't I do it this way?" And the presenter says, "But we're not doing that right now. That's not what we're
Yeah.
doing right now."
Yeah.
What's a possible message that the rest of the class could hear when the presenter says that?
I think the presenter could be sending the message that they want you to try something, but they're what they're saying is, and the message that probably is getting received is, what you want to do is not okay right now. That I want you to do what we're doing because this is the right thing to do in this moment. Like, we're
Yeah,
doing it my way.
sort of set aside, instead of solve it your way and then let's connect, or solve it your way and let's consider. It's like, yes,
It's
that
show me
set
my
it
work.
aside.
It's show me my work. And so it's interesting because you said, imagine if you were a presenter and somebody said that. And in my head, I was like, yeah, that happens. Like, when we
Yeah,
present, it has happened. And I was trying to think about, like, what would we say, or what do we say?
yeah.
Um,
How would you reply if you're
I
doing
mean,
a problem string or something, and like, well, but can't I just regroup? Can't I just cross cancel? Can't I just use the long division algorithm? Can't I
yeah.
just
And I'd say absolutely.
type it in my calculator?
Yeah, sure, you can. Because we honor people's thinking. Like, we honor students thinking in the classroom, we honor teachers thinking in a presentation. So absolutely, they truly can solve it however they want. That we let them solve it however they want. I mean, we're not giving them permission. They can do what they want. They're adults and humans. But then we even sometimes go over and help them, if they get stuck on the way that they're thinking about it. But then we craft the conversation that is had among the group about where we're headed. And then we invite them to consider what we're talking about, even if they didn't do it that way. And that feels different to me than somebody saying, a presenter saying, no, this is what we're doing right now.
Yeah, and I think that's super subtle. Right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with this? It's kind of subtle. So please, by any means, we're not suggesting that's what the presenter meant. I'm
Yeah.
just kind of I'm pulling a line out because we thought we could kind of talk about what we've seen in a lot of places.
Yeah.
We see in a lot of places, like, in fact, I heard Graham Fletcher say something the other day about, this is not about, I can't remember his words exactly, but the message I got was, it's not about memorizing a strategy on Monday and a strategy on Tuesday and a strategy on Wednesday. And I've taught
Yeah.
strategies.
Right.
Because in that mode, you're saying, don't solve it any way you want. You are doing this strategy on Monday. Nope. Now stop. Even though we learned that yesterday. Now today you're doing this strategy on Tuesday. Now stop that. Like, right? Is that is that part of the message that you're saying could be sent if you say, we're not doing that right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's, I'm teaching you this thing and I want you to do it this way
I did
because
it.
that's what we're doing today.
Yeah, I did it. We just did it. Now you do it. We're,
Hmm.
we're not, we're suggesting that's not the way we math. It's not the way we teach math. When you said just a minute ago, I just want to dive just a little bit. When you said we honor kids' thinking, I just to put a fine point on it, we honor kids' thinking by letting them solve the problem however they do.
Hmm.
And like you said, often we will help them if they get stuck in their thinking, even if it's
Hmm.
not the direction we're going.
Hmm.
We might, like, they're like, I'm not sure how, I'm just off here. And we're like, oh yeah, we honor their thinking in that moment. That doesn't then mean that we dishonor their thinking when we then carefully craft the conversation to go a certain direction to move the math forward.
Hmm.
That we have a specific goal for the day. And so then we're going to, in fact, you told me this a long time ago. You're like, it's what you celebrate.
Hmm.
So as you go, everybody's solved, and as you go to the board and you're like, okay, did anybody think about this relationship?
Hmm.
Or you might say, so and so, I saw what you were doing. Can you share that with everybody? In
Hmm.
that way, you are crafting the direction of the conversation
Hmm.
and kind of focusing. And like, I love when you said, and inviting everyone into, can we think about this? Can we make sense of these relationships?
Hmm. It's
And
so funny that you said inviting, because I was just thinking as you were talking, like, it's my job to extend an invitation to these students that is appealing and interesting and intriguing, and they will go, huh, okay, that's
And,
interesting. Like, I'm
and
looking up from what I did, and I want to be a part of this conversation and see what's going on here.
yeah, and we want them to feel invited, not
Yeah.
commanded.
Yeah.
And we want them to be naturally mathematics is naturally intriguing. It is naturally interesting. It's naturally patterns, and we are
Yeah.
hardwired to look for patterns and appreciate patterns and use patterns. We've just gotten away from that as we've been falsely taught that math is to mimic. What were you gonna
Well, it's funny that I was going to say something. I like sit
say?
forward. Can you hear me move forward? I like lean forward
No, I
into the
hear you.
microphone.
I hear you breathe in.
Oh,
You breathe.
sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. I just hear you take a breath. You take a breath, and I'm like, oh, Kim's about to talk.
That's so funny because
Just fine.
we can't even see each other. It's interesting because what I'm thinking about right now is any human conversation that happens. This happens to you and I. We'll start to have a conversation. We're both thinking about something, and we'll say things like, "Can I interrupt? Are you thinking?"
Mm.
Or I'll start to say something, and you'll realize that I'm taking it somewhere else, and you'll go, "Hang on a second," because you need to finish the way you're solving it, or you need to finish the thought you're having, or the conversation, or the point you're trying to make. And then when you've gotten it out, then we're ready to turn and go somewhere else. And that is absolutely true in students in our classroom. Like, if we say, stop what you're doing right now, don't do it that way, this is what we're doing.
Turn 180. Forget your brain was going there.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
chances that they're gonna run with you at that point feel pretty small to me.
It doesn't feel like you've honored their thinking in that
Yeah.
in that way, right? It doesn't feel
Yeah.
like you're helping them connect what they were thinking about to where we're going today,
Yeah.
or that when you say solve it any way you want, stop, do it
Yeah.
this way. That so we want subtle. This is a little bit. We're talking about some subtle things here. Why?
Yeah.
Because we're on podcast episode 300 something, so
Yeah.
we can be subtle. If you guys are like,
Right.
this is too subtle, well, go back and listen to some of the prior
Yeah.
ones. Maybe that would
Yeah.
be, yeah.
Yeah.
Kim, I feel like you were gonna say something about.
Yeah, I think when we talked about this, we were talking about the idea of being clever, that sometimes when you're solving a problem, even if you understand the problem, even if you have already solved the problem, then you can engage in the behavior that we talked about last week, that you can engage in still seeking for something clever that
Mm,
you hadn't seen before. And so, it is true that we might have students who say, I've solved it and I'm not interested. But
mm-hmm.
very often, very, very often, we have students who like take a deep breath and they go, okay. And they're willing to dive back in and look for other pathways.
And listen to their classmates to understand.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that is in a big way what I was feeling that day in the particular presentation I was talking about.
Hmm.
That I think I said as we were doing the problems, I was thinking to myself, I was, how do I say this? I was weighing out, it was a bit of a way of thinking about a problem that I hadn't really considered making that general. And
Hmm.
so I was curious. I was like, will this be generalizable? And as I'm asking myself that, I'm also curious, do I think this is going to be something I promote after this? I was a little dubious as I was doing it. But even through all that, I was seeking for clever. I don't know if that's the right way to say it in this case. I was seeking to understand
Hmm.
when the presenter was saying, "Can we think about it this way?" And then they put us up at whiteboards, and I was working with a group. We were willing to like math. We were mathing. We were like, "This is interesting. Let's see if this does it connect here, or." And in fact, part of what I was doing was trying to find a non-example. I was like, okay, I see the ones you've done so far all divide evenly. I wonder if that works then when they don't divide evenly. I will give them credit, it does. So that was interesting, right? That kind of thought of like, ooh, let me dig into this and see how these most of the people in the room were very willing to kind of let math be figure outable and wonder how we could figure that thing out.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then there's another part to this story. And I think you kind of said that a minute ago. Like when I said, what message does that send? You're like, well, for whom?
Hmm.
So I'm curious when you hear a participant say back to you, because you've said you've heard it lots. When a participant or a student says back to you, but can't I just solve it this way? I want to kind of get under that question.
Yeah.
I wonder, and I don't know, I haven't met this person before. I'd love to chat about it. In fact, if you're listening to the podcast, I'd love to chat. Send me an email, pam@mathisforable.com. I'd love to chat about what you were thinking about. But can't I just solve it this way? I wonder if it's possible that somebody who says that might, I'm not ascribing thinking, but might have, well, if I've got this answer, aren't I done? Can I be done? I got the answer. I got the answer this way. So why jump through these hoops up there if I've already got the answer? Could that, is that a possible? Do you get that feeling ever, Kim, when you're working with people that
Yeah,
maybe
I mean,
they could be thinking,
I certainly think it's possible that they could be focused on getting an answer and just like completing the task. I'm
mm-hmm.
done. I've got it. I also wonder
Well,
if
before you,
it's.
are you going to change tax? Can I stay
I
there for just a
am.
sec?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that's the way we were taught.
Sure.
Most of us were taught our job in math class was to get an answer, do it the same
Yes.
way every time, so we didn't have to think, and yeah. And so we don't blame anybody for being in that mindset.
Sure.
We do want to kind of encourage people to consider there's another mindset. Okay, don't forget what you're going to say. Go ahead. What was your next?
Well, and I think especially because you're talking about something that it sounds like it was something maybe new, a new model, new type of problem. I don't know what the new
It
was,
was a
but
little convoluted. Yeah, it was a little bit like, if you can think about this in this sort of strange way you've never thought about it, can you then think about this in that sort of, yeah, I don't know if that helps.
so I wonder if maybe it has something to do with the answer, but also something to do with comfort. Like, I'm not
Mm,
really sure about what you're doing, but I'm over here safe doing what I know. And that worked. And so it's geared still towards getting an answer, but like I don't need to go where you're going with this stuff because I'm good over here.
I've got a
And
way. I've got a
mhm,
way. This, yeah, I'm kind of comfortable over here. That's kind of
mhm,
odd. Do we have to make it that? I'll say it. Do we have to make it that convoluted?
uh-huh.
And Kim, you and I would agree that if we ever feel like something's too convoluted, we step back
Yeah.
and we might recognize that maybe we haven't built some reasoning. Maybe we don't have some understanding that would be helpful so that the thing isn't actually that convoluted. Like, I think that's why I was willing to dive in that day and well, can I make this part of my repertoire? And then once I own it, decide, not for me, or
Mhm.
not something I'm gonna. But yeah, I think absolutely it could. I think we're inviting everybody to consider when you hit something that you're like, but I have a way. Could that mean that you're leaning back? You're pulling on your experience from when you were taught, but I've solved it. I'm comfortable. I've done it. Done. Can we just do that? Do we have to get this comp? And that could be one way. We're inviting you. Uh, what would it be like to see if you can own those relationships, and then make the decision whether you want it as part of your repertoire or not? Is that fair? Is that a fair way?
Yeah. Yeah, this makes me think a lot about last week's episode about clever and about do we make people solve things two different ways all the time, and I think it's important as educators that we recognize that our job is to craft experiences for teachers, I mean for students, and then as teacher educators
Mm-hmm.
for teachers as well, that help them realize what they know and that they can use things that they didn't realize they knew and maybe go at problems a
Mm-hmm.
different way. And so we can help them make connections that they didn't realize that they already knew
Yeah,
were
let's
there.
talk maybe about an example of that, because the first time you and I talked about this, I was like,
Okay.
I think we need kind of a concrete, like, what do you mean by we can help people realize things, or help people realize they can use something they didn't even realize they knew?
Okay. So when, like, for an example, when we have done some
Mm-hmm.
mass drought chat problems where we have something like 20%, 26% of 50.
Okay.
Um, sometimes,
What is 26% of 50? Uh-huh.
yeah. So maybe people can pause and solve that if they like. But 26% of 50 often will have people say, well, I know 10% and 10% and 5% and 1%, and they'll gather some percents together,
Uh-huh.
or maybe they'll say 20% and 6%. But
Or
then
25%,
sure,
a
yeah.
quarter.
So
Yeah.
lots of piecing their way
Uh-huh.
to getting 50%
Or 20.
or to get 26% of
Yep.
50. But then often what will happen is somebody will say, well, I thought about 50% of 26.
Wait, I thought the problem was 26% of 50.
Yeah. Yeah. But often people will go, "Oh my gosh, like, of course it's just multiplication and I can think about what I know with multiplication and 26% of 50 is equivalent to 50% of 26." And so they have this moment where they're like, "Oh, duh." But it hadn't occurred to them.
Uh-huh.
And so they get an idea from somebody else that connects to something that they already knew. And it's that somebody says something that is clever, they connect it to what they already know, and well, it's a moment where we're making connections for each other and with each other along the way.
Nice. And I know just a
Yeah.
minute ago you were like, "Ah, duh," but they could also be like, "Ooh, nice."
Yeah.
Like you don't mean that as a negative. "Oh, duh." You mean that like, "Oh, I know that, and I
Yeah.
could use
Yeah.
that. How did I not see that before? Okay, but I
Yeah.
see it
Yeah.
now."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but can I add though that seeing it one time is not enough. This is why
Oh,
we love
yeah.
problem strings, right? That we're building
Mental pathways.
strategy. Yep, we're building strategies, we're building those pathways, we're giving them high dose experiences. And so it's not surprising to me that somebody who has made sense of that before but then has done nothing with it then sees maybe another problem in mass chat, uses some other strategy, sees a comment that somebody made and went, "Oh yeah, I did know that." And they just we've got to continue to make these strategies available to ourselves and seek for them so that they are continue to be at our fingertips.
Nice. Let me just give one more quick example.
Okay.
Often when I do a problem string where there's some subtraction involved, it doesn't even have to be a subtraction problem string, but there is some subtraction solving in the problem. And maybe we're subtracting 27 from something, and somebody will say, "Well, I subtracted 20, and then I subtracted 7." That's often a good
Mm-hmm.
strategy. And then I'll say, "Did anybody subtract not 27? Ew, icky. Did anybody subtract 30?" And I'll
Mm-hmm.
pause, and then I'll say, "No." "Okay, could you?" And
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, I will often see that look that you just were kind of trying to describe with those sounds was like, "Oh yeah, oh yeah, I could use 30."
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll go like, "Well, tell us about that. Like, tell us about how you," and then they'll go, well, I could subtract 30, but I've subtracted too much. And then I'll ascribe that strategy to that person. Like, "Well, did you ever hear what David just said, or Jane or whoever?" You're like, "Oh," and then they're like, "Well, that wasn't what I did." And I'm like, "Well, you just did." I'm like, "Well, yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
what I didn't do first." I'm like, "Yeah, but do you now?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, well, okay, that's Jane's strategy."
Mm-hmm.
So that's just an example of where, let me give you one more. I do a problem string where we end up with a table of values, and we've dealt with 1 to 27 and 2 to 54. So if I double 27, I get 54. So 1 to 27, 2 to 54. And then I give them completely unrelated data. And I'm very careful to say it's unrelated. And I'll say 1 to 28 or 2 to, well, and I should have said we graphed the points 1 over 1 up 27 over 2 up 54. And we could think about the line that contains those 2 points. And then I say, how about the points 128 and 255? And then I'll kind of say, does anybody see 27s? And people will go, "Oh yeah, there's like 20 in 1 to 28 and 2 to 55. It's just like, it's like the table before, but you shifted both of the Y values up one." And I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
Kim, I'm standing here. I just put my arm where I had the line that contained those 2 points, and I just shifted that
Yeah.
line up one. So it's an
Yeah.
example of where it might not have occurred to you to see 27s in 1 to 28 and 2 to 55. But when somebody goes, "Does anybody see 27s?" They're like, "Oh yeah." It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like a bunch of multiples of 27. It's just they're all shifted off one.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes, in a problem string, it doesn't even take lobbing out what the
Mm.
strategy might be. Like you just said, did anyone think about the 30? Sometimes it can be as little of a nudge to say, I wonder if there's anything up here that might be useful to
Oh
you.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we have so much video in classrooms, and it's hilarious how when we say those words, kids instantly look up at the board and they're like, they stare. And then several times, we see them then go down and start to work
They're like, "Oh, I
because
can use
then
that
it's the
one. I
nudge.
can use that
Hmm.
one. I can
Hmm.
use that." Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
So
go ahead.
go ahead.
Yeah. I was gonna
We're all over the
I was gonna
place.
move on. Do you want to say anything else
Well,
there?
I think it's important for people to recognize that you have access to things that even if it didn't occur to you right in that moment, it you have access and somebody can help you realize that you have access.
Nice.
And that is an important thing that we do as educators, is help students understand that it is within their, zone of proximal development to make this leap, and we're helping them get there.
Let's say it this way, that math is figure outable, and they can use what they know to figure out things they don't know yet. And y'all, you might be hearing some people out there say that you can't do this higher math or this kind of math or something until you've memorized the basics. You got to really help kids memorize the basics so they can then actually do some math. I'm just going to invite you to consider that perspective fundamentally misunderstands this entire episode and what we're talking about. That we do not believe that students are an empty vessel that we pour math into. We believe they come to us with some. Now, obviously, some have less experiences, some have more experiences. We find out where they are, what they can do, and we build on that.
Yeah, we're seeking for the ooh factor in our teaching.
Yes.
And adults can have these moments as well, and we seek for those in our professional learning.
Absolutely. All right, nice, Kim, thanks. All right, y'all, thanks for tuning in and teaching more and more real math. To find out more about the Math is Figure Outable movement, visit mathisfigureoutable.com. And let's keep spreading the word that math is figure outable.
Hey, before you go, if today's episode got you thinking about how students build number sense, we'll want to point you towards something.
Our Teaching Place Value mini workshop is about 2 hours of the most foundational stuff in math education. Why place value matters, how to talk about numbers in ways that actually build understanding, activities and problem strings you can take straight to your classroom.
One teacher said it gave her information and activities that she couldn't find anywhere in her resources. That's exactly what it's built for.
And here's the thing, you can preview the entire first lesson for free. No credit card, no risk. Just go to mathisfigureoutable.com/mini, M-I-N-I. If you want your students to stop guessing and start reasoning, this is the place to start. See you next Tuesday.